So meditation is really a method of helping us do this, which is to let go of the something. Look, I've got something in my hand, like that. To that, where I have nothing. That's exactly what meditation is. It's anything, really, that helps us do this. And that may be taking off your clothes and lying in the sunshine, which is highly effective, isn't it? Gives you a lovely feeling. Except the trouble is, sooner or later you've got to go home again. Put your clothes back on. The holiday comes to an end. And the summer and spring singing birds also comes to an end. We're back to winter again. But meditation gives one a way of doing it every day, wherever we are. In the middle of a big city, out in a place like this, in company or alone. It just helps us to find that nothingness in the midst of the clamour of the world that's full of things demanding this and that and the other of us. It gives us the space. And what is space if not freedom? And isn't it right here? Aren't we sitting in it like fishes in the sea? It's funny, isn't it? We're so familiar with it, and yet no one can describe it. How do you describe this invisible something that fills this room? Silence. Stillness, because we are moving, we are breathing, and scratching our noses and talking and that, and it all takes place within this undisturbed stillness, doesn't it? That's ever present. So sometimes we call it the presence, the invisible presence. And what are we talking about when we say spirit? Who knows what spirit is? Isn't it also invisible and indescribable? So what's the difference between silence and space and presence and spirit? Body, mind, and spirit. ABC. Simple as that, isn't it? So the spirit is unchanging, is eternal, and this, of course, comes to pass. So we have the two great principles of creation, that which is ever changing and that which is ever the same. That which we can trust and that which is, well, we can't trust, not in that absolute sense. Because it's here today and gone tomorrow, isn't it? And just to sort of complete the sequence, what is God? What do we mean by God? Well, isn't God spirit? So, for the God-seekers amongst us, where is God if not here? As the Bible constantly tells us, the Lord is with us. Always present, always here and now. So from just going out in the sun and feeling better, you see, to realizing the infinite the infinite depth of what is available just by a simple sequence of mental steps from one to the other, you see. I suppose that's what you could call meditation, or going deeper in meditation. And through many years of practice, gradually you learn to go deeper into the sunshine, as it were, the spiritual sun. First of all, the physical sunshine, and then the spiritual sunshine, which is really the grace that's, in biblical language, the grace that's coming down from heaven. So there, my dears, that's what I have to give you. But I don't have it to give you, do I? It's here anyway. I can't give. All I can do perhaps is point the way. The school where I learnt Tom many years ago was in London. So I was a farmer here in Bakewell at the time. And of course, like most country boy, I didn't think anything of London. But I had to go there and learn the practice and attend regularly for further guidance. And one of the, well, at the time I think it was amazing really, was to sort of put these sort of simple things into practice and discover right in the middle of busy London this wonderful stillness, in which everything moved with perfect harmony. It wasn't chaotic at all. In fact, I remember distinctly driving around Marble Arch. I had a little van there. I used to deliver vegetables. And you know, this grace came in, as it does, suddenly you remember. And I found myself part of this perfect dance, as it were, of traffic going around Marble Arch. And everything was perfect. Couldn't have been more perfect. How did it happen? What made the difference? Now I understand. It's just something like a veil is taken away from your eyes. You have what's called an insight. Usually we live inside here. We live boxed in, don't we, in our head with our usually negative perceptions of things we like and don't like, and me and mine and all the others. Sometimes you get a sort of opening in this, and suddenly you feel a new reality. Same situation, exactly. Nothing needs to change except this. That's why meditation is well described just like that. It's just an opening. First of all, with the I've got something, and then of course the more difficult, the more advanced technique is letting go our mental blockages, our mental things we hang on to. But with practice it happens very simply, and then we get these things happen. So it's perfectly possible to live in a so-called stressful world full of negative things and be perfectly at peace, whole, complete. In fact, all that one's ever longed for, found. So dears, don't worry too much about methods of meditation that seem too complicated. Start off with sunshine and simple listening. Listen to whatever there is, if you're lucky enough to have birds to listen to. If not, well, you may have to listen to the traffic. Well, first of all, let me say that a head full of thoughts, nothing could be more normal, really. We all have it. I do myself some mornings. I like to think of thoughts like clouds in the sky, mental clouds. Now, see, today's overcast, and so is the mind, sometimes overcast with thoughts, nothing else. You can't seem to if you try to get rid of them, they just get more. So, but I suppose you've all been in an aeroplane. What happens? You get in a plane on a day like this, and up you go, and what's beyond the clouds? Sunshine, isn't it? Well, at least there's clear blue sky. So meditation is just like getting in an aeroplane and going above the clouds, you see. Here are the clouds, something that's, you may not think you're holding on to them, but they're holding on to you, aren't they? These mental blankets, as it were, that cover us. And the aeroplane just takes you through. Because on the other side of the clouds, there's space we're talking about, isn't there? Well, sometimes the thoughts of these are a very thick layer, and it takes probably most of your period of meditation, maybe the whole of it. You never do get through it. But then next day you do, or the day after. So we don't worry about thoughts. That's the first thing. Just accept them as they are, just the mental weather in your head. And you pick up other people's mental attitudes also, so it's, you know, if you can't figure it out, you know, no need to. Thinking about, you know, people in your life. Sleep also, entirely normal to fall asleep in meditation. Many of us do. I do myself sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. When the body's tired, it'll sleep, won't it? So we don't worry about these two very common phenomena. Now then, if you just repeat a mantra like that, with full attention, that's the important thing, the full attention, then you've no more attention left to play around with your thoughts, have you? A car passes on the road like it just did, but because you're giving full attention to the mantra, you don't start being critical or thinking about, bothering about the car, you just let it pass. Now this is meditation, you see. This is why we have a mantra, or some people just look at a candle or something, but a mantra goes deeper, is more effective. Because it may start with words, but then you go beyond words, you get deeper and deeper. It just becomes a sort of very faint little sort of pinpoint in your mind, just something to hold on to, give you direction like a mental handrail. And see, when you have a handrail, where's my stick? You imagine you were in a cave or somewhere, and it was without light. You'd hold on to that handrail for grim death, wouldn't you? Afraid of falling. But when your eyes got accustomed and you began to realize it wasn't so bad, you could just touch it with your fingertips, couldn't you? Just like that. Just know it's there if you want it. Well, that's how a mantra works, you see. So you start off with something definite, and you end up with something, well, indefinite, but nevertheless just there. A sort of invisible friend to keep you steady. So that's meditation, my dears. And if you do have that particular sort of feeling for Jesus, and you feel the safety of the particular sort of, you know, the full significance of what you may find in that word, well, so much the better. It may help you. May help to counteract the distractions. Prayer is usually associated with asking something of someone. So it really takes place in this, what we call duality, between when you are here and God's some sort of entity out there. When you do what I've been sort of trying to show to you, this finding the presence, finding the stillness, you sort of more melt into it, don't you? It's not so much a matter of asking something from me to that, whatever that is. If you don't attach names to it, then in a way the separation doesn't, you're not separate, are you? Extraordinary names divide you, don't you? If you start saying that is God or this is contemplation, you're still in this world of, if that's contemplation, then that means this isn't, this is something else. So you've immediately got a divided world. But if you just stop trying to analyze anything and just be present, where's the division? How many presences are there? It's all just one, isn't it? One simplicity. It really is simplicity. Feel it for yourself, this presence, which is, it may be still, but it's not dead, is it? It's undivided, isn't it? So here in this room we're 10 people and one presence, one spirit. And actually there's another way of describing it, because I am. Isn't this actually what we are? Because here's the bit of me that comes and goes. The John Butler that you know will soon be in his grave, won't he? So what am I? Will anything pass on beyond the grave? Isn't it here now? Does this presence die? Can it die? This is mortality, that is immortality. This is death, that's salvation. Isn't it? Don't just sit here and let me tell you. Recognize it for yourself. Is it real for you? Because that's really, I suggest, is why you come here, to realize it for yourself. And see how simple it is. Yes, I'm afraid spiritual life is bedeviled by these. We're so conditioned to think in terms of striving, aren't we? Well, it is an effort to get up early in the morning, isn't it? I admit that. Yes, it is an effort to plod up the hill to the church twice a day. Yes. Yes, we have to. It's work. You probably heard me refer to it on the videos as work. This is work, it's real work. Because you see, it's not only for ourselves, it's for everyone, isn't it? It always starts off for me. What's in it for me? But gradually, as it gets wider and bigger, you realize that it's work for other people too. Where does it stop? Universal work, isn't it? Because it's, guess what? It's undivided. It's one, isn't it? As we gradually evolve from the separate me into the one, it becomes universal. It's very great. Well, as a young man, I used to get upset by it, especially when they were negative about what I thought mattered in life. That's the normal human reaction, isn't it? And then, at one period in my life, I was told, don't can't remember what it was, something about, oh, I know, don't express negative emotion. In other words, keep your mouth shut when you're about to say something negative. Don't worry about other people, dear. You can't change them. Just like Jesus says, judge not, that ye be not judged. So just, what does the grass do, my dear? People can walk over a field and say the most dreadful things, can't they? They're not even noticing they're walking over the grass. And the dear grass just patiently endures it, doesn't it? Do the trees bother about human unpleasantness? Don't they just keep on growing? Just let it wash over you, my dear, if you can. It's not easy, I know. It takes much practice. But again, the more you become acquainted with this deep rest within yourself, it can become like an inner anchor, like a rock, an invisible rock within yourself of stability. Peace. And what can disturb you? Yes, the world's full of unpleasantness, if you call it unpleasant. Otherwise, just don't call it anything. Don't judge it. We're in a mess, Stephen. The world's in a mess. It's called sin. We're all sinners. I know I've often explained this in the videos. Would you like me to explain again my own particular understanding of sin? But it seems to work for me. Look, we haven't got any. Well, look at this in this window. Look, there's a light, isn't there? That's light. Ah, look, there's a little bird flying across, and isn't that miraculous? Nothing more wonderful than a bird flying across a space, is there? You see? You see, don't you? And I turn this way, and my face is in shadow, isn't it? So I project a shade, and everything is dark. So there we have light and darkness. And the human condition is that we've turned away from the light into darkness. And because everything is in dark, dark plays with dark. Turn back to the light, and you see it all becomes lighter. Enlightenment. What's it all about? There you are, light and dark. Oh, in the dark, you must all be enlightened because you're not asking me questions, because one of the features of darkness is ignorance, isn't it? That's what ignorance is. So people think so people have got questions and they read books and think there's something to find out. Turn to a light. You don't need books because you can see for yourself. And as you let go, you see the weight. This is what you're doing. You're letting go the weight. And you're light, aren't you? Like a balloon. So it's all this negativity, you see, it's down here. There's people who are in darkness. Well, of course, the whole world's in darkness, dear. And we have to learn to just... First of all, you see, we start off by being upset and critical about it. And then you move on to a bit more enlightened stage where instead of being critical, you just... If you're in light, dear, what's the problem? You just smile at it. Smile and the world smiles with you. There's a beautiful prayer in the English prayer. Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy save us from the perils and dangers of this night. In other words, the negativity. So first of all, try not to. If you're going to say something unpleasant about anybody, try to keep your mouth shut. If you can't say something nice, it's better not to say anything. Try not to judge. Try to understand where people are coming from and then what you can do about it. If a room is dark, what do? Switch on the light, don't you? Then what happens to the darkness? More light, less dark. That's why it's called the work. That's why it's very good to recognize the state one is in these conditions. So that's a very, very important first step. It takes practice, Tom. Of course it doesn't work first time because these habits are often deeply ingrained and have been with you maybe many years. You can't just suddenly look out of the window and bingo, that's it. You need to find an effective way of working and sit down and just systematically work at it day after day after day. But the more you face it and recognize what you said, the very fact of sharing something like this will probably already diminish it because you're bringing it out into the open, you're recognizing it as part of this darkness that we all have. And then you begin to replace it with something better. If you are trying to do it with your own personal efforts, your me trying to improve me, you may not be very successful. You need to come into what's something bigger. You need to ask for help. Or what's called the third point, which is something more than just me. In other words, the aeroplane to take you through. Yes, this sort of ding-dong between your and other people's negativity, it certainly is a plague and can endure for many years. But with time and patience, you'll overcome it. I was certainly full of negativity as a young man. Besides not judging others, we must learn not to judge ourselves, Tom. We must learn to accept ourselves as we are. We're all conditioned by the world we grow up in. We're all conditioned by our own turn into the darkness. So we all have these things we wish we didn't have. What we can't change, we must endure. Just keep working for something better, dear. I like the name, meditating on the name Jesus, because I find it very comforting, because He understands. He was also a man. You don't have to hide anything there. In fact, the words of the Jesus prayer are, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, that sort of presents the magnitude of it, have mercy on me. A sweet old-fashioned word, isn't it? Have mercy on me, a sinner. We end with the word sinner, which I find is a very comforting thing to end with. Here, I'm in a mess, so are you in a mess. We're all in a mess. What can we do? You just turn. I'm a sinner. Have mercy on me, a sinner. But you'll find that, see, without realizing it, what you've done is, you've done that. You've given up the fight, haven't you? You said, you know better than me. I don't know what to do. I'm just in a mess. Help me. You see that? Does that, which immediately makes you feel better. As long as we think we know what to do, you're wrong, dear. We don't know anything. Except just here and now, there is this still presence. In fact, this is one, isn't it? This is one indivisible, the one individual presence, in which we are, but see, consciousness goes up and down. One moment we're locked up in John Butler, am I a fish or the ocean? The next moment we've sort of forgotten that and we're just melted into the space. And then we look down, that's just me down there. I'm in it, of course, we're all in it. But are we separate? Or are we? Is it just one? It's called a way of realization. It's not, you don't find it by thought, you find it by putting it into practice and realizing, well, where's the problem? You know, Bakel's a popular tourist centre, and hundreds of thousands of people come here. What do? Some of the younger and more energetic ones love to walk on the hills. Others just sit by the river and feed the ducks or something. Of course, they buy their fish and chips and a Bakewell tart, and at the end of the day, go away. But they've had a lovely drive here through lovely country. They feel better. So they do it again. What's that if not meditation, you see? If you can, go up on the hills. And there, what happens when you climb a hill? You just look around you. Great, isn't it? You just do that naturally, don't you? Takes you out of yourself, doesn't it?